What if I told you the thing you've been searching for your whole life, the power, the clarity, the connection, the freedom, was never missing, just misperceived? What if the reason things feel stuck, why your manifestations keep slipping through your fingers just when they feel close, is because you've been looking for something you're already in, trying to receive what you are already made of? It's not that you're doing it wrong. It's that you've been trained to seek God as something separate, as a distant force, a rewarder of effort, a being to prove yourself to, and so you strain, you try, you push, and in the pushing, your frequency fractures, your nervous system constricts, the flow stops flowing, because manifestation cannot bloom from a state of grasping, not with control, but with coherence. You've been told God is above you, watching, judging. But quantum mechanics whispers something different, something far closer, something far more intimate. It says, the observer is the creator, and you are not just observed. You are the very lens that brings reality into form. When you understand who God is through the quantum, not as a concept but as a frequency, everything changes. Suddenly you're not waiting for a sign. You are the sign. You're not trying to force alignment. You are the field of alignment. The mechanism is not effort. The mechanism is resonance. See, when we talk about quantum manifestation, we're not just tossing around fancy words. We're naming the deepest truth of your being, that the same intelligent field which spins galaxies and sings stars into existence is pulsing through your cells, through your breath, through your thoughts, through your attention. The observer effect shows us. What you focus on, you collapse into form. But collapse is not a violent act. It's a crystallization, a marriage between your inner frequency and the field of infinite potential. God, then, is not a puppeteer pulling strings. God is the field itself, the awareness behind the particles, the rhythm behind the scene. And you, when you drop from fear into presence, from thinking into being, you become the bridge. But we lose that bridge when we chase, when we beg, when we worry about when and how and why it hasn't happened yet. That's not faith. That's frequency incoherence. That's trying to control the ocean with a cup. That's trying to hold light in a clenched fist. It doesn't work. It can't work, because the vibration of control is fundamentally different from the vibration of creation. You can't manifest from dissonance. You can't receive from resistance. You can't embody God while secretly believing you're unworthy. So let me ask you, what if you stopped trying to earn what is already yours? What if you stopped waiting for permission to be what you already are? You don't manifest what you want. You manifest what you are. And what you are is not separate from God. You are the localized awareness of that infinite field, temporarily playing the game of limitation. But the moment you remember, truly remember, who and what you come from, the field responds instantly. Not because it's rewarding you, but because you've returned to coherence, to resonance, to the native language of the quantum, which is not word, but feeling, emotion, embodiment. Think of it like tuning forks. God is not some far-off tower beaming down signal. God is the tuning fork, and you are the echo. The question is, are you resonating with the truth of your being or with the noise of your conditioning? Because when your signal matches the source, timelines collapse, miracles normalize. The wait ends, not because something arrives, but because you do. You arrive into alignment, into recognition, into a state where the outer reflects the inner with breathtaking precision. And it all starts, not with more doing, but with deeper knowing. Knowing who God is through the lens of vibration, through the law of coherence, through the truth of your felt sense, the sacred pulse beneath the noise, the stillness beneath the striving, the knowing beneath the needing. Not a skybound deity, but the quantum field alive in you. I used to think surrender meant weakness, that to stop striving was to give up, that letting go would make everything fall apart. But the truth is, everything was falling apart because I wasn't letting go. I was holding so tightly to outcomes, to timing, to my mental picture of how it was supposed to look, that I was suffocating the flow that was trying to bless me. I wasn't aligned. I was managing, micromanaging the infinite, as if I knew better than life itself. And maybe you felt this too, that tension in your chest when the thing hasn't arrived yet, the scrolling, the checking, the endless asking, why not yet? You think you're being spiritual, but underneath your nervous system is in survival. Underneath the affirmations, your body is bracing for disappointment, and the quantum field doesn't respond to what you say. It responds to what you signal. You can't fake safety. You can't speak over incoherence. The universe isn't listening to your words, it's reading your frequency. And this is where the embodiment comes in. This is where the knowing of God becomes not just a concept, but a calibration, a physical shift. Because when you feel God, and not as an idea, but as a felt presence in your cells, something real happens. Your system softens, your breath deepens, your grip loosens. And suddenly, the field that seemed far away starts responding with stunning clarity. This is the paradox of the quantum. The more you chase, the more it eludes. But the moment you become, the moment you embody what you thought you needed, the world rearranges to reflect it. Not because you forced it, because you matched it. This is why miracles seem to happen out of nowhere when people give up. Not because life is cruel and only delivers when we stop caring, but because giving up often creates a vibrational surrender, a release of control. And in that openness, in that emptiness, the field can finally respond. What if you didn't need to break to get there? What if you could choose coherence before the chaos, stillness before the storm, not by bypassing your feelings, but by alchemizing them, by letting the fear move, the doubt speak, the pressure rise, and staying with yourself anyway, breathing through it, listening deeper, not fixing, just feeling, until the noise subsides and the signal returns. That signal is God, not a voice booming from the clouds, but a soft, steady knowing that lives beneath your thoughts, a current of intelligence woven into your bones, the sacred geometry of your own heartbeat syncing with the rhythm of the cosmos. And when you remember that, when you remember that the same intelligence that orchestrates the stars is present in your choices, your desires, your timing, everything softens. You stop fighting the delay. You stop doubting the silence. You begin to trust the stillness not as absence but as preparation, not as rejection but as refinement. Because the field doesn't forget. The field doesn't withhold. The field doesn't play favorites. It simply reflects. It magnifies. It amplifies. And the question is not how do I get it, but what am I being? And in that question, your whole reality begins to pivot. Because no longer are you praying to an external power. You're aligning with the source within. You're not asking for scraps. You're commanding with coherence. Not demanding, not commanding, not with aggression, with essence. And the more deeply you feel this, not just think it, but feel it, the more your manifestations become inevitable. Not because you're finally doing it right, but because you're finally being who you are. There was a moment, quiet, almost invisible, when I realized I wasn't waiting for the universe. I was waiting for myself to stop performing, stop over-explaining, stop filtering my essence through the lens of fear. I kept saying I trusted the process, but my body told a different story. My jaw was tight, my breath was shallow, my thoughts were looping, because even as I said the words, I surrender, I was secretly still managing. I was scanning the future, bracing for disappointment, hoping God would deliver what I didn't fully believe I could hold. And in that subtle fracture, that misalignment between my mind and my nervous system, I was blocking the very thing I was calling in. This is the quiet sabotage no one talks about. Not the big fears, but the subtle tensions. The invisible what-ifs humming beneath your affirmations. The doubt disguised as planning. The fear wearing the mask of strategy. But the quantum doesn't care what you intend. It mirrors what you embody. And embodiment is not a performance. It's a signal, a coherence between thought, feeling, and field. You cannot trick the field, you can only become it. And this is where the true knowing of God becomes the access point. Not the God of rules, not the God of reward and punishment, but the God that is. The God that breathes you, that moves through everything, that holds no judgment because it is everything. That field does not demand belief. It demands resonance. So when you attune, not just intellectually but viscerally, to the truth that you are already held, already chosen, already part of the divine intelligence that orchestrates all things, your entire vibration changes. Your posture softens. Your vision clears. And without trying, you begin to emit the frequency of inevitability. Because now you're no longer vibrating with lack. You're vibrating with knowing. You become like the flower that opens with the sun, not because it's trying to impress the sky, but because opening is its nature. You become like the wave that returns to the ocean, not because it was wrong to rise, but because returning is its rhythm. And in this embodied rhythm, reality responds. Timelines fold, people show up. Opportunities emerge, not randomly but rhythmically, in sync with your signal. It's not magic, it's physics. It's coherence. Think of your desires like songs playing on a specific station. If your body, your frequency, is tuned to static, you'll never hear them. But when you regulate, when you return, when you remember, the music becomes clear. So how do you regulate? How do you tune? You breathe. You feel. You witness the resistance without identifying with it. You let the ache rise without trying to fix it. You remember that God is not only in the outcome, but in this very breath, this very moment. And the moment you stop trying to get there, you're already home. It's not a path to walk. It's a state to remember. You don't have to do more. You have to be more. And be more here, more open, more honest with yourself about where you've been gripping, about how deeply you've been trying to deserve what was always yours. Because the universe is not testing you. It's waiting for you to stop pretending, to stop proving, to start remembering what? That you are the field, that you are not separate from the source, that you are not manifesting from lack, you are manifesting from truth. And the more you lean into that truth, not as a concept, but as a frequency, the more life bends toward you, not because you're controlling it, because you're in coherence with it. There's a kind of ache that comes when you know you're meant for more, but can't seem to access it, a kind of soul-level frustration, like standing at the edge of something vast and beautiful, watching everyone else cross while you remain stuck behind an invisible wall. You try the mindset tools. You say the right words, you visualize, you script, and still, it doesn't move. So you start to wonder, is something wrong with me? Am I not healed enough, not spiritual enough, not aligned enough? But hear me clearly now. Nothing is wrong with you. Nothing is missing from you. You're not blocked. You're just broadcasting from two frequencies at once. One says, I'm ready. The other whispers, but am I safe if it comes? And the field hears both. You are not manifesting from what you wish you believed. You are manifesting from what your body actually feels. This is where quantum mechanics reveals the truth religion often mystifies. God does not respond to obedience. God responds to resonance. And you cannot fake resonance. You can only return to it. Because God, the quantum field, the divine intelligence, is not making choices for you. It is reflecting the dominant signal of your being. And if your signal says, I want it, but I'm not safe to receive it, the field delays. Not as punishment, but as mercy, as intelligence, as coherence. So the real question becomes, can I make safety my new signal? Can I allow my nervous system to feel safe in abundance, safe in visibility, safe in expansion? Because until the body feels safe, the soul cannot land. We speak often of belief, but belief lives in the mind. Safety lives in the body. And the body is the broadcaster. The body is the bridge. This is why you can think abundant thoughts all day long, but if your stomach clenches every time you open your bank account, you're still transmitting lack. You're speaking one thing, but your field is humming another. So how do you shift? You soften. You begin to orient towards safety. You train your body to recognize expansion not as threat, but as truth. This is not about bypassing fear. This is about creating new patterns of presence. It starts with the breath, slow, full, felt. Then with the pause, choosing to sit with the sensation rather than flee from it. Then with the question, not how do I get what I want, but how can I feel God here in this moment, even before it arrives? And the answer will come, not in words, but in feeling, a softening, a settling, a warmth behind the ribs, a gentle exhale that says, I don't need to chase this. I already contain it. Because you do. The same frequency that creates worlds lives in you. The same energy that holds galaxies is holding your heart right now. You are not a beggar at the feet of the divine. You are the divine in form, learning to remember its own light. And every time you choose to trust that, to rest in that, even when nothing on the outside has changed, you are changing everything. You are collapsing timelines. You are rerouting the signal. You are becoming the frequency of fulfillment now, not someday, now. And the quantum field, God's source, infinite intelligence, does not operate on time. It operates on tone. And when your tone shifts, your timeline does too. So breathe again, feel again, remember again, not with effort, with essence. You are not separate from the miracle. You are the environment in which it occurs. I used to think alignment meant always feeling good, always certain, always high vibe. But the deeper truth is far more tender and far more liberating. Alignment means being honest with what's real and still choosing presence, still choosing to stay open, still choosing to feel safe in the unknown. Because let's be real, the unknown is where the magic lives. The edge of what you can't control is the very threshold of manifestation. And God, the field, the infinite awareness, is not a genie that grants when you're perfect. It's a mirror that responds when you're present. Not when you're pretending, not when you're trying to outthink your fear, but when you're with yourself, when you meet your own trembling without judgment, when you make room for your doubt without letting it drive. That's what changes the signal. That's what creates coherence. Because the truth is, the quantum field doesn't care how spiritual you sound. It doesn't care how many vision boards you make or how many hours you meditate. It responds to your felt state, to the emotional posture underneath your thoughts. So if your body is still in fight or flight, still scanning for proof, still questioning your worth, it doesn't matter how beautiful your intentions are. You're still broadcasting from fragmentation. And fragmentation doesn't magnetize, it repels. This is why you see people doing all the right things, but nothing sticks, because their energy is inconsistent. Their being is split. One part wants the miracle. The other part doesn't feel safe to receive it, and the field hears both. So the real work and the sacred work becomes learning how to create inner safety now. Not waiting for the money, the partner, the sign, the breakthrough, but cultivating a frequency of wholeness in advance. Not because you're trying to manipulate reality, but because that is your reality. That is who you are when you're not in survival. And here's the thing, safety isn't a state you wait for. It's a signal you send. You send it through your breath, through the way you sit with yourself, through the way you stop running from discomfort and start making a home inside it. Because the moment your system feels safe, the moment your body feels seen, the field can finally deliver what it's been holding. Not because you finally earned it, but because you finally matched it. It's like tuning into a radio station that was always playing. You just couldn't hear it over your own static. And this is what God is in the quantum. Not a rewarder of goodness, but a reflection of coherence. Not a judge, a mirror, a revealer, a resonance. So ask yourself, what am I tuning to today? Am I tuned to trust or to tension, to presence or to proving, to embodiment or to escape? Because you don't become magnetic by thinking. You become magnetic by being, by inhabiting the frequency of already, by living as if your life is already infused with grace, already saturated in support, already aligned with love, not from delusion, from decision. And that decision is not mental, it's emotional, physiological. It's the quiet moment you choose to breathe instead of spiral, to bless instead of brace, to open instead of shrink. That is embodiment. That is the gateway. And when you walk through it, when you live from it, you don't just attract what you desire. You become the environment in which miracles can't help but unfold. It took me years to understand that trying harder was never the solution. That more force, more control, more strategy, even when wrapped in spiritual language, only led to more distortion. Because no matter how beautiful the intention, if the vibration is fear, the result is delay, always. And fear has many disguises. It wears the face of urgency, of productivity, of figuring it out. Or we tell ourselves we're being proactive, but deep down we're trying to outrun doubt. We're trying to outrun that deep, aching question, what if it never happens for me? But the truth is, it can't not happen. Not when you're in coherence, not when you become the vibration of the thing itself, because in the quantum, manifestation is not about earning, it's about matching, and you can't match what you don't believe you're allowed to hold. This is why identity is everything. Not the roles you play, but the frequency you embody. If you see yourself as separate from the divine, unworthy of ease, unready for expansion, your field reflects that, even if your words say otherwise, because the field doesn't respond to your mouth, it responds to your memory. Not the memory of your mind, but the memory of your cells, the memory of safety, of wholeness, of union with Source. So the real manifestation, the one that changes everything, is the shift from being a seeker to being a signal, from being a chaser to being a channel, from being a victim of delay to being a vortex of inevitability. Not because you forced it, but because you became it. Think of it like light. A dim light doesn't try to force the room to brighten, it simply shines. And everything changes in response. That's what happens when you remember who you are, not as a concept, as a frequency. When you feel God inside your own body, not as something to reach for, but as the very intelligence that breathes you. And from that place, you stop asking, when will it come? Because you realize, it's already here. The version of you that holds it, lives it, breathes it. She already exists, and the only thing that separates you from her is vibration, not time, vibration. So the work becomes intimacy with self, radical presence, subtle shifts, sacred quiet, less chasing, more choosing. Choosing to be the version of you who already knows, who doesn't need external proof to believe, who holds the vibration even when nothing has changed, especially when nothing has changed, because that's when timelines bend, that's when fields rearrange, that's when what once felt far becomes inevitable. And it starts with a question, a sacred one. Ask not to the universe but to your own heart. What would change in me if I knew, with every fiber of my being, that God was not out there watching, but in here, vibrating? How would I breathe? How would I walk? How would I respond to this delay, this silence, this stretch of unknown? Would I tighten or would I trust? Because this is the moment. Not out there, not someday, now. The field is always listening. The signal is always broadcasting. And you are not just the receiver. You are the source embodied. There's a moment when the striving stops, not because you've given up, but because you've finally arrived. A moment when your body exhales in a way it never has before, not out of exhaustion, but out of recognition, because for the first time, maybe ever, you're not trying to get somewhere else. You're not chasing the next sign. You're not analyzing every delay as a punishment. You're not squeezing your heart into the shape of someone else's path. You're here, with yourself, with the field, with God, not as a destination, but as a presence, inside your skin, inside your stillness. And from this place, everything softens. Not because life suddenly changes, but because you do. Because you stop vibrating from fracture. You stop broadcasting from lack. You stop trying to impress the divine and start aligning with it. You stop acting like a guest in your own life and start moving like you belong. And you do, you always have. But belonging isn't something you're given. It's something you remember. It's the felt knowing that your frequency was never separate from the frequency of creation. That your desires are not random. They're not distractions. They're instructions, coordinates, echoes of who you already are in a timeline that already exists. And when you treat them that way, as sacred, not desperate, your whole field shifts. Your thoughts reorganize. Your emotions recalibrate. Your nervous system starts humming a different tone, the tone of already, not wishful thinking, resonant knowing. That's when the field moves, that's when matter bends, not because you cracked some code, but because you became the code. And yet, you'll still be tempted to check, to grasp, to compare, to micromanage, but now you'll notice. Now you'll feel the dissonance quicker. You'll feel the contraction in your chest, the flicker in your energy, and instead of reacting, you'll pause, you'll breathe, you'll remember. You'll remember that God, the quantum field, doesn't reward perfection. It responds to presence, it echoes coherence, it harmonizes with your honesty. So let it be simple, let it be soft, let it be cellular. Ask yourself, what am I being right now? What is my nervous system broadcasting? Even if my mouth says something different. And instead of judging the answer, love it. Love yourself right there, in the wobble, in the fear, in the ache of waiting. Because even that ache is sacred. Even that longing is part of the field unfolding you. Nothing is wasted, not a single emotion, not a single delay. It's all information, it's all alchemy. And when you stop seeing the process as punishment and start seeing it as preparation, you stop resisting the refinement. You become the frequency that doesn't flinch, the signal that doesn't shake, the channel that doesn't collapse under contrast, because you trust, not blindly but boldly. You trust not in some distant future, but in the intelligence of now. And from that place, you're not just manifesting outcomes, you're manifesting identity. You're becoming the version of you who no longer waits to be chosen, because she knows she is the chooser. She is the source, the signal, the sovereign field. And so here you are, not at the end, but at the origin, the place where everything begins again. Not from effort, but from essence, where manifestation is no longer something you chase, but something you become. A natural extension of who you are when you remember who you've always been. You see, the quantum field doesn't move according to time. It moves according to tone. It listens not to your calendar, but to your calibration. Not to your wishes, but to your witnessing. And when you witness yourself, fully, honestly, without shame, you activate the very blueprint of transformation. Because coherence is not about perfection, it's about presence. And presence is the portal. You are the portal, not just to things, but to the remembrance of God inside form. God not as a man in the sky, but as the field of infinite potential, intelligent, coherent, responsive, vibrating through your body, your breath, your being. And as you live from that awareness, moment by moment, breath by breath, you stop needing signs. Because you are the sign, you stop grasping for confirmation. Because you are confirmation, you stop seeking safety in the external. Because the safest place on earth becomes your own body, aligned and alive in the field of truth. And this truth doesn't shout. It hums, it pulses, it expands in stillness. It radiates in subtlety. And as you attune to it, as you remember that you don't have to be anything more than you, in full coherence, you shift from manifesting things to embodying reality itself, not with scripts, with signal, not through repetition, through revelation, because you don't need to become worthy. You need to become aware. Aware of the God frequency you're already transmitting when you stop silencing your own soul to fit into frequencies that were never yours. So let your life become the experiment. Let every breath be the prayer. Let every silence be the sanctuary. Let every choice be an echo of the truth that you are not here to prove anything. You are here to remember everything. And what you're remembering is this: you don't manifest what you want. You manifest what you are, not from striving, from surrender, not with force but with frequency, not by managing, by magnetizing, not by deserving, by embodying. You are the bridge, the signal, the field, and the more you live from that knowing, not just think it, but live it, the more the world reflects back what it was always waiting to give you, not just your desires but your divinity. This is not the end. This is the remembering, the collapsing, the coherence. You are not separate. You are the source.